What is up, New World? Just Game Master Coaching here, plopping out another New World video for you guys today. I wanted to run through Tank. I absolutely love this class. I love these weapons and the ability to make a huge impact for your team, to help keep them alive or just help your team do more damage in general with Perforate and stuff like that. It just makes for a very fun build and also gives you the ability to get your expertise up and stuff like that, because so many people need tanks, so many people need healers. So that way you guys can actually get your expertise up. You can get the gear that you want to get ready for wars or just be able to stomp PvE stuff. So I'm going to run through this and give you guys a quick, just kind of my understanding of what it looks like to run tank, what I like to do, and how that kind of works to make it the easiest possible. So starting out with attributes, I usually, for anything that I'm tanking, if I'm having like a massively hard time, I might go to 250 con. But my baseline, what I usually go, and I would respec right here if I was going into a dungeon just to add more strength, but what my baseline usually is 200 con, and I throw the rest in strength. You should be golden for being able to tank pretty much anything. At least in my experience, you might have some trouble while you're learning, but after you learn the dungeon and the different attacks that the mobs have and the bosses have, you should be absolutely golden. The next thing I wanted to run into was the weapons tree. We'll start with sword and shield first. What I usually end up doing is running full defender tree. I like it. Some people don't. I enjoy it. And to actually start tanking dungeons, you literally only need level 3 in whatever in your sword and shield. So you'd grab shield rush, you'd grab shield bash, and then you would grab defender's resolve. I use both of these two right here because the ability to consistently taunt your enemies is just, it's up so often, it's so nice. So Shield Bash has Taunt Gem. It literally taunts everybody that you hit with Shield Bash. So if you miss Shield Bash, you will taunt no one. So make sure that you're hitting people with that, but everybody that you hit will be taunted, which is really, really nice. Comes in handy whenever your healers are getting smacked or something by like a ranger, and you can just slap them real quick. And then the Defender's Resolve, whenever you have a taunt gem in that, it's an 8-meter radius, and you taunt everybody that is in that radius. And then I just like using Shield Rush because it staggers and it pushes foes back, so it kind of gives you that CC. And then once you get into the second perk, because this second perk in here actually weakens your enemies for 10%. So it just, I don't know, it gives you more flexibility, it gives your team more flexibility to make mistakes and not get wiped. So that is the defender's tree. I can go more in depth in that if you guys really, really want, but the main ones of note for me, obviously the full tree and that, the full tree and that. Weaken here. These first two here, Sturdy Shield grants additional 15% armor and then reduce damage from all magical attacks. And then this side over here is like your stamina. This is a range stamina. And then this one is a cooldown every time you get slapped while blocking the shield. And then another one that I really enjoy is this one here. Whenever you use Shield Bash or Shield Rush, you get an extra 15 stamina. That just comes in handy with a couple of different bosses because especially in like Tempest and stuff like that, she'll hit your shield almost down to breaking your block, and then you can use Shield Bash or Shield Rush or both to get pretty much full stamina back if you can't attack. Because usually while you're blocking, you'll block like an attack or something like that, and then while their main attack is down, using your sword, your light attack or whatever, your light attack chain, hitting them like 3 times so that your stamina regains immediately. Because once you throw down your shield or after you stop blocking and you immediately start attacking, your stamina is going to regen a lot faster. So that is the sword and shield. And my trusty secondhand weapon is always the spear. The spear is just insane for CC. The way that I like running tank is you're either taunting, you're either chain CCing, or you're perforating. And what I end up going is sweep, perforate, and keenly vault kick, or vault kick. The vault kick on the spear actually has taunt gem with it as well, so everybody that you kick, gems equipped in your spear, this ability inflicts taunt for 2 seconds when it hits. So pretty much everybody that you hit will be taunted for 2 seconds whenever you keenly vault kick them. So that's another additive. So you have 3 abilities that will literally taunt. So it gives you a big availability to actually help your team make sure that your healers aren't dying or don't have a bunch of mobs on them, stuff like that. So, but that is what I run for this. I can do a complete tree later down the road. Right now, I just haven't because I just don't have enough points because I am still a baby in the game since I restarted. But so that's the main priority, is just get sweep, get perforate, and get keenly ball kick. You will have carnelian gems, and yeah. So this is actually the gear that I run. It isn't super crazy. Some of this gear I literally have gotten, like the Angry Earth gear I've gotten after doing the dungeons. Whenever I first started, I had no Angry Earth Ward gear at all. I would say whenever you're first starting out, at least for me, whenever I hit level 60 and I wanted to start doing dungeons so I could start working on my expertise grind, I just went to the trading post. I went in there and got as high as gear score that gave me the stats that I needed, and if it had a decent perk, I'd buy it. Because I just wanted something that was around 590 gear, so that way it would get lowered, because my expertise couldn't actually hold that gear score, but I would still have half of that gear score, and every time that I got an expertise bump, I would get a higher level gear score because I already had that gear. I would just suggest before you start these dungeons, try and get and buy some type of 590 gear for each piece off of the market, so that way your gear score will be bumped up as high as possible whenever you're first starting out. The Angry Earth Ward isn't super crazy until you get into mutations, and the higher mutations for sure. But the biggest and most important thing whenever you're starting out, once you hit level 60, is your overall gear score. That's kind of what you're looking for your armor side of your gear. And then for your weapons, you can just buy whatever sword that has a gem slot and whatever spear that has a gem slot, and just throw carnelians in that. It'll be more than enough for you to be able to actually do these dungeons. With your auto attacks, because you have those carnelian gems in them, you will pull aggro and threat off of a lot of other people just by auto attacking. So whenever your abilities are on cooldown, last case scenario, just auto attack. When you initiate a fight, usually AoE taunting with Defender's Resolve is it just feels nice, and you can actually see above the heads of everyone, all of the enemies, this little lightning bolt that shows that they are taunted. But usually you'll engage a fight, especially in a mobby fight, with that, and then you will move into just holding up your shield, letting them all kind of stack up on you, and then from there, if you need to use Keenly Ball Kick to taunt someone else to get it off a healer, or use your Shield Bash to get it off a healer or somebody that is about to die, that is when you will use those. So you kind of save those for those times, unless you know that you have all the aggro, and you can you can use your Shield Bash, and then start perforating or something like that. But for the majority of the time, you want to make sure that you save your Shield Bash and your Keenly Ball Kick to save your healer or to save a squishy target, and taunt the person on them. And the next thing I want to talk about is just when to use your shield. It's very important to use your shield, and then learning to not let your stamina completely run out is quite the art form, to be completely honest, especially with the different ways that some of these bosses and the mechanics of the game work. But usually you can taunt them, hold up your shield, and you will be fine for a very long time. Whenever you get to some bosses and some of the Angry Earth, like the soldiers, they will do some abilities that do quite a bit of stamina damage, and then that's when you can start auto attacking after they use that ability and you're almost out of stamina, to regain that stamina. Or you can CC them with either your Shield Rush or your Shield Bash or Keenly Vault Kick or whatever. Do some type of CC to them so that way you can take your block down and regen your stamina. But that's kind of gonna be how that works whenever you're doing mobby stuff. But once you get into some of these bosses have some really gnarly abilities. Like the in-boss inside of Genesis, where she'll do a ground slam. Yeah, some of these abilities insta-break your block, so you'll have to learn to dodge those abilities. Obviously, after the ability, you want to auto-attack, get your stamina back up, and then you can put your shield back up for the regular attacks. But that's kind of how that's going to move whenever you're tanking. Another thing to kind of just take note of is whenever you have a lot of these mobs or these bosses on you, it is very easy to get staggered or CC'd out of either a main ability, and take a ton of damage, or get your main ability interrupted, like your Perforate or your Vault Kick or something like that, or even Sweep. So being able to learn how to dodge backwards before you use an ability is going to help you out massively. So I just wanted to throw that in there so that way you guys are aware of that. It's going to help you guys out a lot. And then the next thing is just CC chains in general. So obviously, whenever you're taunting, you have taunted them, you used your defender's resolve. If I have like a huge clumped mob, I usually shield bash, so I have a little bit of time, and then I'll perforate so that they're just taking massive amounts of damage. Usually after I use perforate, if I have a decent DPS team, they're pretty much blown up immediately. But learning how to actually create CC chains, because later down the road, perforate will actually, once you get to the bottom of the tree on perforate, it'll actually stagger. Almost everything in this build staggers or knocks down. So being able to actually use those in a way that keeps people locked down is going to be huge for you. Also too, there are 2 abilities inside of that you have, shield bash, which has grit, and then also keenly vault kick, and both of those will knock enemies out of grit. Obviously not bosses for the most part. It will usually take quite a bit of their stamina away though. But whenever you're fighting a soldier or something like that and they go white, it shows that they have grit. You can use shield bash or you can use keenly vault kick to actually stop them out of that, which is going to make such a huge impact on your team staying alive, because a lot of DPS have no idea what they're doing. They're just slapping, they're just whacking at this guy, and then he comes up and he is like gritted and just like slaps the ground and busts the dude for like all of his HP. So if you can use your keenly vault kick and your shield bash in times like that, it's going to be absolutely amazing. And then if you don't know, perforate is amazing in general in the build just because it creates rend. Once you get the second perk, it adds a percentage to your rend, which is a really good ability. I love it because it just makes going through the dungeon so much faster. Whenever you throw that rend on bosses or on these big mobs that have chunky HP, you just melt them super fast. And as you're going through this, some of these bosses have these little yellow stamina bars underneath them. During this time, heavy attacks are absolutely crucial. The more heavy attacks that you get in, you just chunk their stamina bar, so they're just stuck there consistently. Especially if everybody on your team knows this, the boss is on their knees the whole time, or you're just stabbing them. So just be aware of this while you're tanking. If other people in your group aren't leading it, obviously you can. Just hold up your shield while they're doing their abilities. When you have an open moment, just heavy attack, knock down their stamina. And honestly, every single dungeon is going to take time to learn. All of them are different. All of them have things that you have to do. All of them have different boss mechanics, and it's just going to take time, you know? So just get in there, try it out. Try out your abilities when they're good to be used. I wanted to give you guys kind of just an overview of what that looks like, so that way, whenever you're going into this, you're not just completely lost. You know how to use your abilities to some extent, so people won't just flame you. So I hope this helps you guys massively. And I am Twitch streaming, so if you want to catch me on that, just make sure and follow. I will try and throw it up on Twitter whenever I go live. I don't always, but you can catch me on there if you want to get some more insight while I'm actually going through these dungeons, so you can get first-hand experience, or just ask me questions in person. If you guys want to see specific dungeons, you can hit me up in the comments below. I'd be more than happy to make another video or just answer your questions about what you're going through while you're going through these dungeons. If you want to see more content like this, make sure and subscribe, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Peace.